You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Michael, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us once again, Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. My name is Jordan Lowe.
And I'm Cliff Barnes. I can say and.
Period. We're a twosome tonight.
Everybody else bailed.
Well, Seth has been thrown into some overtime hours at his job. Won't get personal or anything, but he works in a hospital, so you can imagine things are a little bit hectic right now in the world of hospitals.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely not a fun time to be in healthcare right now. So, especially in our area. But yeah,
and
Seth
Michael had some family issues involving healthcare as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
So it's just us. We're gonna soldier on here and try and get an episode out because I took the weekend off. And for anybody that doesn't know or isn't from the Mid Ohio Valley, it is, as we record, Stern Wheel weekend.
Well, the masses were gathering as I left work tonight. It was. I tried to pull out of the alley and they had the cones already blocking my exits. Like I had to do a U-turn in an alley.
Oh
and,
no!
Go out the other way, but
yeah, you're probably better off. You just stay away from. Do you think those hospitals are crowded now? You wait a week. So.
And people having like heart attacks and strokes or choking on elephant ears or something or not.
Right.
Or eating all that greasy food.
Big tenderloin sandwiches down there.
There's not going to be any health care for you. So
no. So be careful. So yeah.
Just walk the plank. Just walk off the edge of the boat.
right into the
right
river.
into the river. Burial at sea. That's all you're going to get.
Yeah, that's your best bet at this point.
That's dark humor to start off the episode.
So yeah, it's been a busy time in our area. We had the big Washington County Fair last weekend over Labor Day, and that traditionally just rolls right into Sternwheel Festival weekend and brings in a lot of tourists, a lot of business typically. So I have a lot of entertainment down on the riverbank and fireworks tomorrow night. So on top of that, I mentioned to Jordan off air there that a couple of the area high schools are having homecoming this weekend. So there's some football games going on right now and some dances this weekend for homecoming. So I know my daughter's really excited. It's her first high school homecoming event.
Oh.
And so she got invited by some of her volleyball teammates. She's really excited. She's going to get her hair did tomorrow. She got her nails done the other night. She's got her dress all ready to go. So a lot of stuff happening in the area.
Yeah, especially after a year of not having those normal high school sort of activities. Like I get why the excitement is back, trying to get some semblance of normalcy going again.
I think that's really what it's all about. It's been a long year and a half in the schools and with the kids and unfortunately you only get one shot at high school. At least most of us, unless you're like Marty McFly or something. So I feel for those kids because I had a lot of fun in high school doing that stuff, and you hate to see them miss out, but we want them to be safe. So
does she have a mask that matches her dress?
I don't know. I didn't even think about that.
You got to coordinate the mask and the corsage and the nails and all that.
It's all got to, yes. High fashion. Yeah. So other than that, what else has been going on? I hopped on,
yeah,
hopped on
yeah.
over to the Rattlich in broadcasting. Is it still the Rattlich in
They
broadcasting
are
network?
part of the W2M network.
Okay. So
And
if we,
I think
yeah, if we
Radulich is
want
a subsection of the W2M parent network.
to, okay. So if we want to find them on like Apple Podcast or Spotify or
Right.
whatever, yeah, that's how we do it now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we got invited to our friend, our original listener, Jesse Starter. He invited us over to one of his trivia games. He's played with us on some patron stuff we've done before.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't ever record ours. And so,
And he's done those Wizard Magazine quizzes with us, where
right.
he would do a quiz from 25 years ago. So he's been a quiz player and a quiz master.
So yeah, we got invited and to do a trivia show and last weekend, and it was the subject of said trivia was going to be toys and toy lines.
So we knew
So
who to send.
so
Our
I got
ringer. We
nominated.
sent the ringer. The show's called Tripped Up Trivia. If you want to look for that, I'll put a link in the show notes here. But they had done a sci-fi episode where all the questions were sci-fi related. They did one about female superheroes. The
Yeah.
last one was when Space Jam came out. They did WB animation. So each one has a specific theme. So this was the fourth one, toys. And I gotta say, I'm glad you went. I don't think I would have done as well as you. I would have done okay,
Mm-hmm.
but there were several, like the one was Tinker Toys, and
Yeah.
my mind was just went blank. I could picture them in my head,
What it was,
and I thought erector set. The only thing I could think of was erector set, and I knew it wasn't that, but I could not come up with the name of Tinker Toys. I did know the female Ninja Turtle. That one I did.
See, yeah, I it took a minute for me to I had to think about that one for a little bit, but I felt like maybe I don't know where I've heard that question before because I hadn't really watched the show, but I'd heard that question before. So I got lucky in that one. But in all honesty, there was some good competition. Like I kind of going into it, I thought, okay, I should know a good portion of these questions, hopefully, and it was going to be myself, Evan Bevins,
Who has been on? He's been on our show before.
yes, Remington Hitchcock, so one half of the our arch nemesis,
Solo Ogre.
So and then and Mark Radulich were the contestants. So but it was close. It was fairly close. I got lucky on a few questions, made a little run there the second half of the show. But Jesse did a pretty good job with the questions and not making them too easy but yet impossible to figure out. So
and the Star Wars one stumped you. I think
yes.
you ended up guessing right, but it wasn't something you knew for sure from that original Kenner Star Wars line.
Yeah, the early bird set, there was a question about that, and you had to. He gave us multiple choice, and you had to figure out which figure wasn't included in that original 4 or something like that. And I just kind of got lucky again, but it was a lot of fun. It's a good show. It's out there now. He got it edited and posted pretty quickly. So, spoiler alert, I beat the pants off all of them.
A dominant performance.
Oh, had to lay it down. There was no, I didn't really care that I won, but I just knew I had to beat Remington. That was my whole goal. Like, I can't let those two show us up. So, Mission accomplished. I think Jesse mentioned as we were recording, they're going to do at some point. I think they're going to do some Disney trivia.
That's not even fair.
Yeah, I was like,
they need to handicap you in some way.
Bring it on, boys. Bring it on.
Like you should have to answer before they give the multiple choice questions or something to at least make it somewhat level playing field.
I was trying to as he was reading the questions, I was trying to type the answers in to see if I could get them sent in before he was done with the questions. I did a couple times, but I think I wasn't the only one that was doing that on several of those questions. So, because at one point Jesse was kind of like, guys, let me read the question. Let me finish the question before you start sending me answers.
Well, it sounded like a good time. The trivia was about an hour long, but the episode's about an hour and a half because Jesse put in so many outtakes and bloopers at the end. So must have been a laugh-filled night.
A lot of comments. There was a lot of singing, just spontaneous singing, which was, that was a little different for me.
Remington has the voice of an ogre. I mean, angel.
So, if you're not familiar, guys, and you are in our local area, even if you're not in our local area, check out some of our podcasting friends and enemies and frenemies that we've met pretty much through podcasting. So that's one of the benefit of doing this stuff and putting content out is you get to meet other people trying to do similar things than you, and
there's a pretty decent chance the only people listening to us are other podcasters.
That's true. Most likely
all of our download numbers might be from other podcasters.
Yes. That's very, very possible that Jesse Starcher and Remington and probably Brandon Full are going to be half the listeners to this episode right now. So we got that going for us.
I'll take it. A download is a download, as we've said before. All right, so it's just two of us, but I know we've seen some movies recently.
Save Martha! Puny God.
I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. I'm Batman.
Kneel before Zod! On the roof!
Said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So what's it gonna be, huh? Long sullen silence? Or mean comment? Go on.
You got me in a box here.
What you been watching?
Very recently. Not a whole lot this week that comes to the top of my head, but you had mentioned on our last episode about Netflix having that Bob Ross documentary called Bob Ross Happy Accident. What was the rest of it?
Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed.
There it is.
Bob liked the thrill of watching a new student smile with a fresh, new, beautiful painting. Bob would just make him so happy, it's unreal. It's like, man, did I do this? I couldn't have. Yes, you did.
There's a lot going on besides painting. And I think people are aware of that and they enjoy that.
It's the documentary everyone's talking about right now, Bob Ross, Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed. It's streaming on Netflix. It is the story of what happened after Bob Ross passed away at the age of 52 and the people who took over his business.
Yeah, I had seen it on Net. I think it had just dropped the last time we recorded about it, so I hadn't had a chance to watch it, but I did. So yeah, of course, The Joy of Painting, the famous Bob Ross. It aired on over 300 PBS stations between 1983 and 1994, going out to over 80 million people every day. And the old episodes on YouTube have over 450 million views. So he's still a cultural icon.
Yeah.
His image is still on paints and canvases and how-to books, as well as silly chia pets and
Right.
and pop vinyl dolls, like underwear and socks,
Halloween costumes.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's still in the serious art world and also in the more the pop culture realm.
Right. Well,
this documentary kind of it tells you about his life and the how he got there, but it also takes a little bit darker turn of how Bob Ross Incorporated, the company, the business that surrounded him, has basically, I don't know, taken over ownership of him and his copyrights and his art and his likeness and his name.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. I didn't realize this until I started watching it, but I must have watched something or read some stuff about Bob Ross. Maybe it was, he died in like 1995 or something. So I don't want to.
There was just an article a couple months ago that it was about how few of his paintings have come up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was it. That kind of got some traction, but it was like the guy painted. There were hundreds of episodes of the show. Every weekend he was doing seminars and training sessions, and before he was discovered, he was just out. He was at flea markets and stuff doing paint. So there are, I think they said like 30,000 possible paintings out there, and like they never come up for sale.
It's insane.
Yeah, this Bob Ross Incorporated has a warehouse of them just stacked away, hidden somewhere, and the ones that do, he's the most prolific painter in American history, probably.
Right.
But
right.
He doesn't come up for at the auction houses and eBay sales and stuff like that. It is a very rarity. So that was an interesting article before all the scandal of this stuff from this documentary.
Yeah, because it didn't really it didn't get into a whole lot of like his real early stuff, and like his mentor was a guy that made painting videos very similar to his name was Bill Alexander, and he was a German immigrant who I have some faint recall of reading about some stuff about him coming from like Nazi Germany, and he kind of had like a whole history going on there that may have been a little sketchy himself.
But yeah, he was less warm and cuddly than Bob Ross and his happy trees. This guy was like, here, we're painting this canvas.
It was that
blue over here right now.
It was the very stereotypical German guy, old German guy. He's yelling and screaming as he's painting and directing it. And but not a whole lot about that. It kind of and like his military background and everything left a little bit of some mystery there, I guess. But we got, the majority of this documentary covered his career after he got out of the military, started, doing these workshops and like you said, and this and that, and then how that sprung into the partnership with another couple who, more or less ran the business side of it. But as they did that, they completely kind of screwed over everybody they were in business with or competing against at one point. So
yeah, there were some other like public broadcaster painters that they like, that they had to
they basically
had to get off the air, like we didn't have any competition.
They stole their whole gimmick and everything they were doing. They were famous for like Jenkins. They had their own show, they painted flowers, had books about that, and then years later this woman is doing the exact same thing, painting the exact same flowers, making just a copy of their show. So
but Bob Ross, he seemed like he had drive, and he seemed ambitious. He wanted to be a success. He wanted to get out there and do it. So it wasn't just like a hippie, I just want to paint, man. Like he seemed to have some kind of drive.
Right.
But these people he's in business with had a whole other motive.
They took
definitely.
it to a new
And he
level.
wanted to pass things on to his son. He wanted to follow in his footsteps, and he wanted his son to kind of take over. And just legally, they were just kind of outmaneuvered, and that's not what happened.
Yeah, because apparently a bunch of people declined to be interviewed for this movie, including was it Kowalski, the couple that he was in business with.
Yeah,
they didn't want to have any part of it, but some of Bob's some of his closer friends that were painters or painted under him, and his son all seemed to kind of have about the same story, the same, kind of impression of who he was and who the other people were, that he was in business with. And so it definitely skews that way. But it's Bob Ross. We're talking about a guy that is so often grouped together with Mr. Rogers and that ilk, of people we grew up with, these very kind of kind, gentle teachers,
right.
that Bob Ross didn't make really his show for kids, but it was very popular with kids. I remember it being on the entire time I was growing up, and sure, if it was on, there wasn't anything else on, I
definitely watched it. I never got out of a canvas and painted along, but
yeah, we weren't that rich. We couldn't afford those Bob Ross paints.
But yeah, that's the general idea. It doesn't, there's a few details about his life that, there's hints he maybe had an affair or whatever, but it's not dragging him down at all. But it does definitely make the point, if you're buying this Bob Ross branded paint or the Chia Pets, like, that money's not going to the Bob Ross family or any of his descendants. It's
not
going,
at all.
It's going to a company.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting. It was pretty good. I wouldn't call it a fun ass documentary, but it was a good documentary. So watch that. Also, I think the same night I got on a little kick there. Watched Biography. I Want My MTV, about the history and the startup of the cable channel.
Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
MTV has been heralded as fresh and innovative and criticized for being shallow.
When MTV first hit, this was the biggest talk in the universe. MTV dropped a grenade into our world.
Everybody was watching MTV.
People had it on like the radio.
I want my MTV!
Made international stars almost overnight.
We had no idea what was going to happen because of MTV.
It gave a visual representation to the artist that they did not have before.
But you never looked at music the same way again?
That was, I would say it was much more skewed towards that fun ass documentary style. So
you said that this one was on Hulu now?
I watched it on Hulu. I think originally it was on A&E.
Yeah, because I think when I saw it, it was just that A&E Biography.
Yeah, but it was not bad. I am old enough that I remember most of that stuff. I watched a lot of MTV, hours and hours and hours of MTV as a child, and before when it was just music videos. Before The Real World and teen pregnancy or 16 and pregnant and all that stuff. that they later spun off.
These are the years they're talking about. They barely had enough music videos. They didn't have enough to fill 24 hours. These early days.
Just played the same ones over and over and over. But it had some good stuff with the original executives, the people that started the channel out, how they got it started. They put together a show. It was kind of the same concept called Pop Clips, where they just played a few music videos that apparently, tested like gangbusters, and they were able to take that to Warner Brothers and start their own channel. And just, it was a juggernaut. That's how I remember it. I remember those I Want My MTV ads forever. They ran them for years. And I was lucky enough that my grandparents had the 1980s little, plastic fake wood cable box on top of their console TV, and must have had like 5 or 6 individual buttons. You would put your TV on like UHF or something, and you would push each button for different channels, how it worked at their house. So they had ESPN, they had USA Network. I still remember this. They had Nickelodeon, they had HBO, and then you had MTV was one of those channels too. So like I said, I was pretty early exposed to that. So watched a lot of those original MTV VJs back in the very early 80s. So some good stuff, a lot of interviews, it was interesting getting the perspective of these video disc jockeys. I like these things, especially when there's been enough years ago. You feel free to say what really happened. Like you don't have to sugarcoat anything anymore. Yeah, it was nice to get there. They had no idea what they were doing. They were very inexperienced, the whole lot of them. And then getting the perspective from the television executives and how they were able to get music videos, how they chose them, the actual production of the channel. And then they threw in the perspective a lot of those early artists that were making those videos. And a lot of those, they were just like, oh yeah, they were terrible. We had no budget. We gave very little thought to it. Some of them were like, yeah, we made like three of those a day. It was just, and the difference, just how it came to be. And then so many of them were like British groups back then, because they were more familiar with that type of format, had more history with it. So that's why we got, a lot of those bands we would have never known if it weren't for MTV and playing their videos. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I watched that with my daughter and my wife a little bit. So they didn't have, Alicia didn't have as much, I don't think, early history with MTV. So some of that may have been some newer information to her. But it was interesting, and it kind of fed into, how it became, less rock and roll and more diversified, which was interesting. I've seen that interview with David Bowie before.
Right. I'd like to ask you something. All right. It occurred to me, having watched MTV over the last few months, that it's a solid enterprise, and it's got a lot going for it. I'm just floored by the fact that there's so few black artists featured on it. Why is that?
I think that we're trying to move in that direction. We want to play artists that seem to be doing music that fits into what we want to play for MTV. The company is thinking in terms of narrow casting.
That's evident. It's evident in the fact that the only few black artists that one does see are on about 2:30 in the morning or to around 6. Very few are featured predominantly during the day.
No,
I'll say that over the last couple of weeks, these things have been changing, but it's a slow process.
I know, it's funny. I think people have different perceptions when you wind up watching. Let's say you watch an hour or 2 or even 3 a day. people somehow come away with different ideas about what we are doing.
Where he kind of called out the entire channel and was like, "You're not playing black artists at all. Why aren't you showing their stuff?" And the VJ that was doing the interview did a really terrible job of
trying to defend. Well,
but then how that progressed and they started playing that, and they started playing hip hop and Michael Jackson and stuff, and I loved Yo MTV Raps when I was a kid. The Ed Lover Dance and Dr. Dre. I loved that show. So that was a lot of fun to me, getting to see those guys again and given, the background on that and how it started at 2 a.m. As they were, it quickly became the biggest hit, I think, of the network at the time. But and then how that eventually led into things like Pauly Shore and Beavis and Butthead and Road Rules and The Real World and all of that reality stuff really got it how it got its start on American television on MTV. So, and then it's I don't know, to me, I'm old. It's kind of a shame to me that MTV does not play music videos, and it's just, I feel like as a American culture, we're missing out on something because it was just such a staple.
I would probably complain and wouldn't like the music videos that they were playing, but it would be nice to have.
At least we would have them.
And I guess with YouTube and all these video sites that there's still artists are still making them and they're still being seen, but it's just not that shared. Like if a video dropped on Total Request Live at 5 p.m., everyone I knew saw it that day. Like it was, that broke a band right there. So now everything's much more, diverse and
my kids watch it on their phones and YouTube and all that. So, but yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a lot more fun than the Bob Ross thing. I didn't get as much out of it as I did the Bob Ross documentary.
I just remember it covered a lot of ground in a short period of time.
It did.
It could have been several parts long and like Yo MTV Raps, that's fascinating. Like I would have liked to learn more about the origins of that, but it's just kind of boom boom boom.
Yeah, they could have actually made it a little bit of almost like a mini series out of it. And like you said, doing the rap stuff, they could have done a 120 minutes episode. They could have done, I could have called out, they could have done a Headbangers Ball episode or an MTV News with Kurt Loder episode. I would have loved that. So, all of that stuff. So I watched hours and hours and hours of MTV back in the day. And it brought back a lot of stuff that I'd forgotten about. So those spring breaks and the Pauly Shores and the Jenny McCarthy on the dating. What was the dating show?
Singled Out.
Singled Out. Yes. So, yes. So I watched all of that. That really branched out into a different media category nowadays, talking about the reality stuff. So anyways, if you got a little bit of time, check it out. It was good enough.
The other movie I watched this week wasn't a documentary, but it was a biopic. Just hitting HBO Max this week, Professor Marston and the Wonder Women.
Who's Charles Moulton?
That is my pseudonym.
Why don't you write Wonder Woman under your real name? Because most Americans have a low opinion of comic book writers? Or is it something else?
A person is most happy when they are submissive to a loving authority.
I want to study her.
She'll break your heart.
Don't be jealous.
I'm your wife, not your jailer.
I think you long for an unconventional life.
Maybe I just want her because you do. You think it's possible to love two people at the same time?
Why not? What is normal?
It can never happen.
The world won't let it.
The world can't stop us.
Is this what you really want? Dr. Marston, every issue of Wonder Woman is filled with violence, torture, and sadomasochism. This abnormal behavior in your comic is reckless.
Yes.
So this is about William Moulton Marsden, the creator of Wonder Woman, and his not very typical home life. Marsden's granddaughter, Christy Marsden, has stated publicly that her family, quote, completely rejects any claims made in the film and in no way support this work of fiction.
Wow.
So they didn't, I don't know how much they, dove into, family history. They didn't interview the kids or grandkids or anything. The director, Angela Robinson, called it an interpretation of their story. So basically saying she was trying to make a good drama and wasn't trying to pick every detail of historical accuracy, which, that's what it was. It was a drama film. It wasn't purporting to be a documentary. So this came out in 2017, which is the same year as Wonder Woman, the Gal Gadot version of Wonder Woman. So probably the character had never been bigger at that moment in pop culture than 2017.
Well, I remember we watched that. Was it Robert Kirkman that had that history of comic books like a year or two ago?
Yeah.
And there was an episode. Wasn't there an episode about Wonder Woman in that? And
yeah, I believe so.
It was pretty good too. I mean, giving kind of I imagine, maybe not as fictionalized, maybe, but kind of that same background of the creator, in his relationships.
So yeah, I enjoyed the film as a an interest in comic book history, but it was also a good romantic sort of movie, a little by the numbers, a little melodramatic, a little over the top, but that's fine in this kind of movie. So it starred Luke Evans as William Marsden, who was Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, the live action. And he's in that 9 Perfect Strangers at the moment, his most recent thing.
Yes, he is.
So
he's good in that too.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that I've seen him in very much, and spoiler, everyone in this movie is way better looking than the actual people in history.
Of course.
This dude was not a studly professor. He was rather homely. Everybody involved with this was pretty homely. So he is a professor at Radcliffe, which was basically the women's college, like the sister college to Harvard, because women couldn't get into Harvard at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So he's teaching psychology at Radcliffe, and his wife is played by Rebecca Hall, who she was Iron Man 3. She was the scientist in that, and she was just in Godzilla vs. Kong. So they're trying to get their careers going. Famously, the creator of the lie detector test, which again may not be perfectly. He kind of developed the cuff that goes on the lie detector test to test your blood pressure. So he didn't. Technically, that's a good story that he invented the lie detector, but not really.
Oh man.
So they're an academic couple, and then this young girl starts school there. Bella Heathcote is the actress. She was in Man in the High Castle and Neon Demon. So, like the lecherous college professor instantly falls in love with the beautiful young student, but so does his wife. Basically, they have an attraction, and it
was definitely, they had like a polyamorous relationship at the time, which was very taboo.
Yes, and could get them all fired and could blow up in their faces horribly if anyone ever found out. So after some drama and some struggle, they do admit they all have feelings for each other and they can't quite separate each other. So they try something new and try all living together and being together. And the idea of him creating Wonder Woman based on these two women, that the one is smart and strong and outspoken and a fighter for truth and justice, and the other is young and beautiful and spontaneous and exciting. So all the characters of these two women together, created Princess Diana. And the movie, of course, there's references to golden bracelets, and someone gives him a toy plane that's like see-through, so it looks like an invisible plane. So there's all these little references that are like, all right, I see what you're doing.
Well, that was always the thing about the lie detector. He invented the lie detector test, and she has the lasso of truth. It all connected too easily almost. So.
But yeah, it's all kind of framed around these 1950s hearings of indecency and how comic books are rotting kids' minds and stuff. And so there's a ton of, they show the old art and all the bondage and the weird sadomasochism. And because every issue, somebody got tied up in the lasso and somebody got spanked or some kind of looking back. It maybe was innocent back then to a kid's eyes, but pretty obvious what was going on then.
There wasn't anybody spanking Superman though.
So as a bit of comic book history, it's definitely worth a watch. But it was emotional too. It had some good scenes of them grappling with their feelings and all that stuff. So again, it's on HBO Max at the moment, and I think it's worth a watch.
Yeah, I think Michael watched it. So. But yeah, so anyways, the big, I guess, movie, at least in our world. Did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. So the big movie, in our circle, was the latest Marvel movie to come out. Just came out and was released into theaters. It was kind of a bummer. I have gotten used to the big movies coming out, on streaming, whether it was HBO Max or Disney Plus or whatever. And I was like, I got to go to the theater for this thing. Like, I don't even have the option to buy it,
It was definitely, I waited. I didn't see it opening weekend. I waited till Tuesday. Like, I just wasn't really in a hurry. And part of it was the hype wasn't really there for me. There wasn't anything I felt like I had to see right away. But it's also, I'm still a little bit like, it's still weird going out to a movie theater.
It is.
I can't get over that. So
yeah, I just went today. I went to an late afternoon showing, and I counted 5 other people in the theater. It wasn't in the biggest theater, but it was like in the second biggest theater, the one I saw. Everybody sat very spread apart. I don't think you had the same. I don't think you had the same experience. So, but you went Tuesday night. You went to the local $5 special.
Well, it's $6 now.
Oh, shoot!
Theaters are struggling. They had to up the $6. So I was the first one in there. So I went way toward the front. I normally don't sit very close to the front, but I was only because I wanted to be by myself. So I went like maybe 4 rows back.
Nobody's going to sit up here.
And then somebody came in and sat like 2 rows ahead of me, even closer. And then a whole group came in and sat directly behind me.
So weird.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, but I had my mask on, was tightly secured, didn't slurp any popcorn or anything through it. So anyway, we're talking, of course, about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings.
Throughout my life, the 10 rings gave our family power. If you want them to be yours one day, you have to show me you are strong enough to carry them.
You are a product of all who came before you. The legacy of your family. You are your mother. And whether you like it or not, you are also your father.
I told my men they wouldn't be able to kill you if they tried. Glad I was right.
You're just a criminal who murders people.
Be careful how you speak to me, boy.
The 25th Marvel movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was a huge opening. So for being, I'm sure we're not the only ones hesitant to go to the theater.
Yeah.
It made $75 million in the first 3 days, which the previous Labor Day weekend record holder was the Halloween reboot in 2007. It made $30 million. So Labor Day is not a big movie weekend. So more than doubled the previous record, and it's already well over 100 million in domestic sales. It's the fastest to 100 million since the pandemic started. And the article I was looking at said, it also pointed out, this is the first one not available day and date on Disney Plus.
Right.
Like Jungle Cruise just came out, was
Cruella
and underperformed.
Black
Widow underperformed. Yeah. So this was again, we're just the studios are experimenting. So was it because this was such a better movie and people wanted to see it more, or was it because they had no other choice and had to go to a theater?
Right. That's interesting. So what what did you think? Well,
I also saw the apparently it's coming to Disney Plus after 45 days.
Oh.
So it's going to be like they shortened the window.
Mm-hmm.
So they said like in mid-October it'll be on Disney Plus, but I couldn't find whether it was free on Disney Plus or if it was the Premier Access thing.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask.
It won't be very long, but it's long enough to make 100 million in theaters. So again, I think they're just winging it, trying to figure out what works best for them as a company. So
yeah, I'll be interested to see the price point on that. So what do you think overall?
I enjoyed it. I said before, this is the stretch where Marvel's going to prove themselves. With Black Widow that they released 5 years too late.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, a character nobody's ever heard of, and the Eternals, who's a weird sci-fi concept nobody knows. So this stretch of movies, okay, if Marvel's got it, they're gonna show it to us now. And so I was impressed. It was an origin story, kind of like we're used to, but it had enough novel things, and I liked all the characters. I thought the action was good. So I wasn't going in expecting to hate it, but I didn't think it would blow me away. So it was a mildly surprised, positive surprise.
Yeah, my son went to see this last weekend, and after I was like, because I asked him about it, him and his girlfriend both really liked it. And I was like, because I was on the fence, like, am I gonna bother to go see this? Because again, movie theaters are icky now. But then after he saw it and gave it a thumbs up, my daughter went to see it with her cousin. And she was telling me how good it was, and she really enjoyed it. And she is not the biggest Marvel movie fan, so I was like, okay, maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, it is hard to judge these movies based on reviews and hype, because there are certain people that everyone is the best thing they've ever seen, and there's others who have access to grind for whatever reason and will say they hate it before it ever comes out. So it's you got to find people you trust.
So, so as of someone who just saw it a few hours ago, man, I really dug it. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. There were parts where in the theater I was the only one laughing at the joke. But that was okay. It didn't ruin the experience for me. I thought it was so much fun. It was different enough from the Marvel formula to keep me interested. Because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know who was going to live, who was going to die. I have no history with these characters at all. Knew nothing about them other than like he was like martial arts guy. So yeah, I thought for an origin picture, it hit all the marks for me. The characters, I didn't even know like Aquafina was in it. So I really had not paid any attention to anything about it. So I was very fresh faced going into this.
And we're going to spoil some things here. So if you haven't seen it yet, from here on out, we're going to talk some plot details and maybe a few surprises. So
right,
the spoilers are about to begin. But yeah, as I was sitting there and it opens up in these beautiful, the Chinese fairy tale world. And I thought it has been a full generation since like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That was the year 2000. So
Yeah.
like you say, like your daughter's probably never seen a kung fu movie where people are dancing on wires and leaves and treetops and like that. That's a completely foreign thing to maybe a whole generation now, where that had kind of a renaissance when we were younger.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to seem completely different to a whole lot of people. But I thought the main actor was a little bit bland.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give him, as we talked about in Black Widow, like the supporting cast was so good.
Was so much better.
The main guy was just the hero, and he didn't have as many personality quirks or whatever. So I've never seen Kim's Convenience, so that's where he's best known.
Yes.
The actor Simu Liu, more known for comedy, but had done some stunt work and things. So he from what little martial arts experience I have, he seemed like really suited to it.
Yeah, he looked cool. The fight sequences were all pretty interesting, I thought. Even in the way they contrasted the different styles, a lot of times it's just punch, kick, but the way they're different fighting styles and how they blocked each other and countered each move, it was interesting. My first thought on it, I was like, oh, this is like that Airbender cartoon.
Right.
It just gave me that vibe in a whole bunch of the scenes, but yeah, I mean, I was impressed. It was the 10 rings were interesting to me, and how we're getting some spoiler stuff here, but how they worked that, retrofitted that back into that Iron Man 2 storyline.
Yeah.
And having Ben Kingsley come back and reprise his Trevor role.
I believe it's 3, just to be.
Is that the third? Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3. Yes. Sorry. 2 was the
my bird is
my bird. I want my bird.
Why that's the first thing I think of from that movie. But.
Who could forget that classic?
Yeah, I did not know Ben Kingsley was even in this. I whether that's me not paying attention or they had kept the lid on it, I'm not sure. But I had a thought of like, okay, this is gonna have to touch on that in some way, with dealing with the 10 rings. That's where we knew of it from before. But I assume maybe some kind of reference or cameo. But he was in it for quite a long stretch of the movie, so that was surprising. But apparently Disney Plus just dropped there's a short they made called Hail to the King, was like an extra on one of the DVDs. It was like a
Mhm.
little 10-minute short about Trevor in prison and how he got imprisoned by the Ten Rings. So that's on Disney Plus now. If you want the connective tissue between Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi, that's out there. And it's pretty funny.
Yeah, some credit to Sir Ben Kingsley there, and just having fun with this role as much as he had for this many years. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight for me. Him and that dumb thing with that animal that had no face. It was just two butts or something. I don't know. Two butts and wings.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of Two Butts. I really loved the villain. So there are people in my orbit who hated Iron Man 3 and still do because that wasn't Mandarin. That wasn't there. I personally liked that twist where he was not the evil terrorist and he was this British twerp, but that wasn't Mandarin. So I know some people who did not like that and will never like that. So I'm curious to see how this will affect people, if this somehow redeems that. We finally got a real Mandarin, even though it's not really.
But I don't know, because that was such the main. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Was that not the main Iron Man villain for decades?
Yeah, he's the arch enemy.
But we've had so much Iron Man in these MCU movies over the years that it's like I don't even think about the Mandarin. Like it was just a joke, but like as a villain, like when you say Iron Man, I don't even think about the Mandarin. Like I'm just thinking about Avengers movies and Thanos and stuff like that now. So they very much moved on beyond that. I don't know about I mean, are they still writing Mandarin stories in the comics, really, or they just went with the movies and?
Yeah, nothing substantial in a while. But that, I believe, like the original Iron Man, that Ten Rings logo, like when he's in the cave, it's like they were setting this up. That was going to be the big payoff. The Mandarin's going to be this guy, and it never happened. So this is some kind of mashup just to, I don't know, just to tie it all together, because they don't call his name in the movie is Wen Wu.
Right.
He has that line, I've gone by many names, Master Khan and all these. So he is a mashup of a bunch of different characters. And I think they succeeded. He was more interesting than any of those characters would have been. So the actor is Tony Leung, this is his first American role, his first English speaking role. He speaks fluent English, but it's his first role not as in a Chinese film, and he's one of the biggest stars of Chinese cinema. Like he's worked with Ang Lee, John Woo, Wong Kar-wai, like all the famous Chinese directors. He's worked with all of them. He was in Hard Boiled, the Grandmaster, In the Mood for Love, like these cross movies that have crossed over from Chinese language to ours. So he's a huge star. And I think people are going to discover, American audiences are definitely going to discover him here, because he has such a face, like he has such emotion on his face, and and a power to him. And there's, like all the good Marvel villains, there's some sympathy there too. He's not just pure evil. He had been redeemed and found love and changed his ways and was kind of backslid to that. So I think people are really going to like him as a villain.
Definitely. And visually, I thought the effects were pretty great. We talked about the two butts thing, but even all these mystical creatures, like it gave me a little bit of Avatar vibe there for a second.
I thought the Never-Ending Story and riding the Luck Dragon.
Yeah, that too. But overall, I thought that the dragon looked awesome. Like nothing looked. Of course, it all looked fake, but it was supposed to. It's fantasy.
Right.
But the look of the dragon I really liked. I just watched not too long ago that Disney movie Raya and the Last Dragon, and had a very similar main character, visually, not the same size, but visually the dragons, that's how they looked.
Also features Awkwafina.
Also features Aquafina. But so I really did like that. But I thought the story, I mean, it didn't feel like it was a pretty long movie, but I didn't get dragged down in it. I never really had that like, oh, hurry it up moment. Like, get on with it, get to the main, it kept me interested enough that I didn't notice how long it was, really. So yeah, I thought the story was fine. I like the effects of it. They're Marvel effects, they're big budget movie. And the actors, the characters were I thought were funny and interesting, and there was plenty of them to go around. So even having Wong and his little part in there, I mean, I was like, I never thought I'd give two craps about Wong.
He's a fan favorite now.
But yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, let's see more Wong. Can
never have too much Wong. But yeah, I could have seen Awkwafina could have been annoying and superfluous, but I really liked her. I thought they used her just enough. Maybe didn't overuse her and her quips, and I think she's funny anyway. Michelle Yeoh is great, and from Crouching Tiger, the original kung fu movie like that.
Yeah.
She was excellent, and the lady who played his sister, Shai Ling, her name is Meng Arjong. I'm gonna use all. I learned how to say all these, so I'm gonna use them all. I'm gonna pepper all of them in. This is her first film credit. She had done some theater and some acting, but this is her first time in a movie, and I thought she was really good too, as the neglected sister, and with all the family issues. So everybody did a good job. Since we are a podcast of comic fans, I don't know a ton about the character. I haven't. It's one of those guys when he shows up, it's like, hey, cool, I love Shang-Chi. Yeah, it's great to see it. But like, I have not read a ton of it. But yeah, like you said, a character straight out of the 70s during the Bruce Lee fad. It was just trying to cash in on that. Like the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. So it was those kind of 70s Kung Fu movies straight out of that. So originally, his dad was the villain Fu Manchu, who is the old pulp villain from old pulp novels with the famous evil Chinese mystic with a mustache. That I don't know if it had gone to the public domain or Marvel had licensed it somehow, but they had used this character Fu Manchu as his dad, which has been retconned in recent years. And again, he's gone by many names, so he's immortal or whatever. So we're not using this kind of yellow scare, quote unquote, racist caricature anymore. So it's kind of a mashup of that and all the Mandarin stuff. And it felt very Iron Fist too. With somebody says something about the heart of the dragon, which is how Iron Fist gets his power. This idea of the mystical cities, that's Iron Fist. You could only get to Kunlun through a mystical portal that was only open a certain amount of time. So it felt so close to Iron Fist. It feels like that it has to be on purpose. They're maybe trying to dovetail these together somehow. That their origins are going to kind of work together in the future at some point. Even the the army of the 10 rings, when they're black ninja outfits, they're very much of the look of the hand. So right. So it and that's that. It fits along with what's going on in the comics in modern day. Is basically he had defeated his father and taken over. It's not the 10 rings in the comics. It's the deadly hand, I think it's called, or something along those lines. But like, he's in charge of this criminal organization and is trying to use it to do the right thing now, and is having a hard time keeping and people don't trust him. They don't want him to be running this organization. So the ending with the sister being in charge now, like I saw some review. I didn't get why she turned villainous. It's like, well, it's not really it doesn't necessarily say she's a villain.
Yeah, it doesn't. It
just
doesn't
running
give
the
you,
joint.
Yeah, it doesn't give you any indication of either or. So
Yeah.
Yeah, were you surprised in the in the after credits? Were you surprised we got a Ruffalo sighting and a
Again, it's nothing should surprise us anymore in tying it into these Avengers, but yeah, I was a little bit like, hey, that guy, even though it shouldn't be. But and then I never even thought of it. And maybe you hadn't either, and you've just seen it. People are going nuts trying to figure out why he's back in human form.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
because Professor Hulk in the past movie, he turned himself. He was the best of both worlds. He was Hulk.
Right. He's got his arm in the sling.
He still had the arm sling, but he's back to human. And people are just, well, they just didn't want to pay to animate it, save a couple $1,000. But he's also going to have a role in She-Hulk coming up, so we might get an explanation there or what.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. Like, the Marvel doesn't leave a lot of plot holes. We got a lot of content that we'll eventually get to. So I'm not going to stress about it. But yeah, so there were two. That was the first, the mid-credits thing where Captain Marvel and Hulk basically saying, welcome aboard. And
well, they're
getting his training from Wong or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, they're in the restaurant, and then Wong comes and gets them. So more Wong. But yeah, I that surprised me a little bit. And like, is the beacon they're talking about, is that gonna, do you anticipate that running into Eternals?
That was the I think that was the theory most people seem to have online.
Yeah,
that it's if these are ancient weapons or some aliens somehow in origin, that yes, that makes sense. I could see them going either way. Who knows? But yeah, that seems to make the most sense.
Especially that's the next movie up on the on the schedule. So
the other cameos, if you remember, the Abomination was in the trailer. And at least the people I've come in contact with were pretty hyped. Yeah, Abomination's coming back, and he didn't factor into anything at all.
Anything, yeah.
But again, he was Tim Roth, was his name. He's been cast in She-Hulk, so we're gonna get some more with Abomination. So if you got real hyped about Abomination by the trailer, you were probably let down.
Well, Marvel and Disney do a really good job with like, it's been a long time since we've seen that character, so naturally they're going to update the look and making it more comic book accurate. So that's a nice little way of like, we'll just give you a few seconds, and then when we get into more important roles, you'll be used to, it won't be a shock, you won't be focused in on that new look,
which is the benefit of this giant connected universe. You can pepper stuff in like that. But there was also a couple of cameos in the fighting ring. There was a Black Widow, one of the many female widows, and one of the soldiers with the Extremis upgrade from Iron Man 3 were seen in very quick little moments. The other
were some of those made to look like Street Fighter characters to you?
It was a little. I couldn't tell if it was like references or just they're just kind of archetypes, like the sumo guy,
there was like a guy in a red gi, a guy in a white gi. I think I was just like, okay, where's the big green guy then with the hair? Like, is John Claude gonna pop out there? And so, anyways,
and the other minor villains, Razor Fist. Again, was just a very D-list Marvel villain with swords for hands. And Death Dealer was the guy in the intricate mask and the hood.
Because I did not know who that was.
I wouldn't have either. And I swear, when somebody grabs the keys to the car, the BMW product placement of the Razor Fist mobile.
Yeah.
I swear the keychains, I swear one of them said Gorgon, but I just saw for a split second, and I can't find it anywhere online. Which Gorgon is another villain. It was a Wolverine villain, and he was in Secret Warriors fighting Nick Fury from years back. So I thought, I not knowing who Death Dealer was, I'm like, is that supposed to be Gorgon? I couldn't tell, but I don't know. So it was, either it was a trick of my eyes or a reference so fast and obscure that nobody else saw it. So I don't know.
What was that villain's name? What was the Razor
Fist?
Razor Fist.
Yes.
Okay. Not to be confused with the Razor Crest on The Mandalorian.
Or Laser Face.
Or Taser Face on Guardians.
Well, in the comics, Razor Fist, both his hands are knives.
Oh, okay.
And I have a feeling if you do that in live action, you're going to get more questions like, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How does this guy do basic functions around the house with knives for hands?
He should fight Meek, the alien guy from Guardians. Wow. So yeah, that's it's very fresh in my mind. The experience I had, I just really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. So I'm happy that it's done well at the theaters, because me, when it comes to comic books, I like these kind of oddball C and D list characters way more than I typically like your Superman or Batman or Captain America or whatever. So,
and there's so much more room. He said, he doesn't have a long, convoluted backstory. Like you can twist him in new, exciting ways. So very unexpected things they could do with him. He could fit on any sort of team. This Dark Avengers team we think is forming, or Thunderbolts, or whatever you want to call it, or he could go with this other Avengers team, or Secret Avengers, or whatever the next phase is. They can kind of pencil him in anywhere.
And every time Marvel announces one of these movies that the general public is like, who?
Yeah.
I think to myself, the story must be really good. Because if they're willing to cast the check on some oddball character, the story must already be pretty good. So I've got hopes for Eternals and everything else down the line that isn't, the Avengers we know.
And again, adding to the diversity of the Marvel Universe as the first Asian-led film, the director, Destin Daniel Cretton, is an Asian descent. And it's easy to be cynical and think, oh, well, this, for the Chinese market, they're going to cash in. They're just going to, pump this out to sell this movie in China like Disney is famous for. But literally, as I was sitting here waiting to log on, I saw an article that the Chinese release is unlikely. Apparently, Simu tweeted a few things a few years back that the Chinese government doesn't like. In 2017 interview with the CBC, the Canadian-born actor referenced his parents telling him about the conditions under communist rule and referred to China as a third world country where people were dying of starvation.
Yeah, I could see why they didn't like that.
So that's, the Chinese censors are very sensitive to that kind of thing. And even Eternals, the director of Eternals, Chloe Zhao, that, her movies aren't, Nomadland, and they're not going to, because she has been critical of China in the past. So these two Marvel blockbusters are not likely going to get that huge cash infusion that the Chinese opening gets. So this seemed made for that market. Like they were catering to that market, it seemed like, and it might not be happening now. So I'm sure somebody at Disney accounting department is pulling their hair out.
There goes that Shang-Chi dark ride at Shanghai Disney.
It felt very with the Chinese mythology, a lot of the like the nine-tailed fox, like there's a straight out of Chinese fairy tales and starring bankable Chinese stars who are famous here and there. Like, I don't know, that seems crazy. It wouldn't be a huge blockbuster over there, but
yeah,
I guess the government has more important things to worry about.
Aye. So,
but the AV Club review, I thought pointed out something interesting. They call it a mixtape of martial arts movie genres. So that first scene with all the wire work and the dance, basically that was House of Flying Daggers or Crouching Tiger, that kind of style. The bus chase and the scaffolding fight is a Jackie Chan movie.
Man, that scaffolding scene was great, though.
The stunt work and the practical effects and the crazy stunts. The underground fighting ring is something like Bloodsport or Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
One of those kind of genres. When they go after the gangsters in that hideout with a bunch of neon and people in fedoras, that's an 80s John Woo movie. Straight out the box. And all those, every version of the Chinese cinema mashed up with a Marvel superhero origin story, and here's what you get. Like it was just, they borrowed from here, borrowed from there, and made something. Again, the kid, maybe I would recognize those references, but kids are just going to be blown away. It's going to seem so fresh and exciting. So I think we have new stars in the Marvel universe.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a big hit.
Yeah, because the only thing I would have recognized was probably the Michael Jackson Thriller jacket costume he wore. So, but yeah, it was good. I liked it. So I'll be interested to hear what Michael and Seth thought of it. See if they were on the same page as us.
Right.
We all tend to, usually with the Marvel movies, I think we all generally like them typically. So
DC is a whole other story.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. So.
There's always differing opinions on DC. We did escape a lot of talk about Spider-Man 2 tonight, because that's all Seth would have wanted to talk about.
Yes, thank God for that.
So we got that trailer for the next Spider-Man movie, and he went on a Spider-Man 2 kick and has been sending screenshots and memes all week referencing Spider-Man 2.
The entire world is about to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Wait, everyone? Can't some people still know?
That's not how the spell works.
So MJ's gonna forget about everything we've ever been through?
Stop tampering with the spell.
Oh my God, Ned, he's my best friend. Oh, my Aunt May should really
stop talking.
What just happened?
We tampered with the stability of space-time. The multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little. The problem is you trying to live two different lives. The longer you do it, the more dangerous it becomes. Be careful what you wish for, Parker. Hello, Peter.
That's really my only, because we didn't mention the What If series, but did you watch the What If, the latest, the zombies one?
Yes.
Okay. I just watched that too. Watched that yesterday, and I've seen some criticism on that episode, but I really liked it for the most part. But I'm a little, like, as a not the biggest Spider-Man fan, I'm a little scared that this next several films or phases are going to be so Spider-Man heavy that I'm getting a little worried, because I've seen some rumblings about Disney trying to to get the Spider-Man movie rights back and get Tom Holland signed in to do Disney Spider-Man movies, not Sony Spider-Man movies. So yeah.
Well, we'll see how big this Venom sequel is and how much clout Sony has if they can.
Does that even look? I didn't even see the first one. It looked terrible to me, and this Carnage, it still looks terrible.
It was okay. It was fine. It wasn't a Marvel Studios movie for sure.
Yeah. I mean, is it fairly? I don't even remember when we talked about it. Is it fairly accurate to the comics, or
they make it a little more? Comedic's not the right word, but like he bickers, like he can hear the Venom symbiote in his mind, and they like there's some funny like odd couple like bickering or him acting weird in front of people who don't know what's wrong with him and that kind of thing. So there's a little more like slapsticky kind of stuff like that, where rather than the horror or the it's not body horror or anything like that. But yeah, watching that Marvel Zombies cartoon, I thought, we're 25 movies deep and we're getting this weird stuff. I was like, but by the time another 25 movies comes out, we're going to get a Marvel Zombies movie. There's going to be before I'm an elderly person, hopefully, we're going to get stuff like that in live action, I'm sure. So let's mark that down in podcast history and go back to that in 20 years.
I'm here for that. Like, just do it. If you're going to do it, freaking do it. Put Halloween time. Let's have Marvel Zombies in the Disney parks, like chasing people around. I would love that. So. Oh, all right. Well, I think that got the podcast out of my system tonight. Okay, I needed to get that out. So,
because we are barreling toward 300. We got this is 298, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so one more to go before the big 300 and the anniversary special.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
So hope you come back for that and whatever else we're doing. So, and hope we did justice to our missing comrades, and hope we lived up to the KPP pedigree. All right, we will see you soon. Goodbye, everybody. My name is Jordan Lowe.
Cliff Barnes. Goodbye forever. Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, @gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, please sign up to be a patron through the Podbean app or our website, www.udownwithkpp.com, to receive special content and early access to some episodes. We are grateful to anyone that chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will always remain free, so please continue to like, comment, and share. I got to say it this week. How about that?
You should just start saying it before he speaks.
Oh God, that would be funny. Just wait for that little pause and then just shout it. That would be good. I'm gonna hold on to that.